Friends, Parker Schnabel has made a significant impact in the gold rush sector this time that no one else has. Imagine, there was a secret shaft beneath the dangerous and icy Yukon that no one had ventured to enter for years. It's said that this place was so dangerous that even the older miners were afraid to venture there. But Parker started digging, taking a major risk. Furthermore, his findings shocked the entire crew. According to reports, Parker has discovered a gold mine worth up to $65 million. Consider how much may be different in someone's life for all time. But how was this gold able to remain undiscovered so long there? Was it just a gem that was unintentionally missed? Or is there a long-kept secret that hasn't been made public yet? In addition to the gold, Parker and his team discovered some strange markings when they began their excavation. There are indications that this site was once a major secret operating site. The government is currently monitoring this discovery. Parker must also decide whether or not to be honest with the world, or keep it a secret. Get ready, because this is not just a story about a pile of riches. It's also about a secret that could change the trajectory of the gold rush forever. To be sure you don't miss Parker's next update, simply click the bell button to subscribe to the channel. Amazing discovery. The Yukon's dangerous region. Yukon, a region perpetually shielded by snow and cold winds. For most of the year, the ground here freezes and becomes as hard as granite. This region is significantly more susceptible to severe winds and unexpected blizzards. More dangerous, even human breath is insufficient during the bitterly cold winter months. Freezes. As a result, miners have traditionally considered this region to be among the most difficult and demanding. Living here is difficult, and mining is much riskier. Horror stories about the Yukon date back to the prehistoric era. Intervals. Legend has it that many of the miners who came here to search for gold never returned. Some say they were in a catastrophic accident, while others believe they were confined there by an enigmatic force. Although the miners were nowhere to be seen, several camps were discovered a few years ago where their belongings were all still intact. Found. Because of these catastrophes, there is still mystery and terror in this place. Because of this, certain parts of the Yukon are forbidden. The authorities and former miners agree that it is unsafe for people to be here. Unexpected landfalls are always a possibility. Dangerous gas leaks and blizzards. Strange noises have also been reported in the dark, which makes employees more anxious. According to some old maps, there is a mysterious hole deep in the Yukon. Legend has it that prehistoric miners built this shaft, which contained a secret that no one was aware of, has ever found. It is difficult to distinguish between gossip and the reality because these maps are so old and torn. Parker and his team had to descend into this dangerous area. After finding a clue regarding this shaft, the biggest discovery of their lives began at this point. Parker's troubles are numerous. This season got off to a terrible start for Parker Schnabel. Financial constraints immediately affected him, but he felt that he would have everything under control when he returned to the Yukon. Simply enough, the Parkers lacked the funds necessary for the forthcoming season's excavation. The financial situation had already gotten worse due to a few mistakes and exorbitant expenses from the previous season. Because of this, Parker decided to take a greater risk this time. Parker knew that if he couldn't quickly extract more gold this time, his entire business would be in jeopardy. Mining is challenging in an area like the Yukon, where daily expenses could amount to millions of dollars. Payments to his employees, equipment maintenance, and the escalating cost of petrol. Prior to the end of the season, excavation might be halted if gold wasn't found quickly. Parker's pressure was only increased by this notion. Parker was being considered by the club and major investors. Investors in Parker thought that this season would yield higher profits than any previous one. People kept asking Parker for upgrades and hoping he will make some big news soon. Parker's team members also repeatedly warned him that everything would be lost if gold wasn't found this time. This pressure was nothing short of a nightmare for Parker. In these circumstances, Parker used old maps and folklore to find the mysterious Yukon shaft. He had no choice but to enter this shaft, even though he knew it would be extremely dangerous. Parker decided to accept this last chance, even if it meant risking the lives of his teammates. Now was the moment. Parker made his life's most important and riskiest choice, which ultimately earned him $65 million in gold. When Parker discovered the secret tunnel, his luck suddenly altered. I received an antique map from an elderly retired miner in the Yukon. The map was corroded and had dusty corners from decades before. They said it was of a shaft. Many years ago, some miners made it, and it was sealed for some reason. The old miner informed Parker that the location was perilous, and that many miners had gone missing there. But Parker had one thought in mind. The outcome of his season could change if the map turned out to be accurate. Parker and his team planned to hunt for a spot secretly at night. If they had worked there during the day, they would have been in contact with the government and other miners. So they decided on darkness. The cold night, the chilling air, and the team's respiration all became more rapid. They continued to carefully go over the chart under the low light of cameras and the brightness of headlamps. Their hearts pounded at every step, unsure of what they would find. This search operation was captured on video at every moment. In the dark of the night, their figures seemed eerie. The silence was broken by the crack of their boots on the snow. Every time they heard a strange sound, the squad members would stop and say, "Examine your surroundings." Watching the video reminds me of a scene from a horror movie. Parker's face was serious, and there was only one thing visible in his eyes, an unwavering determination to locate the wealth. The place was eventually found by Parker's crew, where the X mark was on the map. There was an old iron door beneath the snow and mud. The rusted door has strange markings engraved around it. Together, the team removed the snow and dirt from above the door. After taking a deep breath, Parker cautiously opened the heavy door. Perhaps they were unleashing decades, and as the door cracked open, a cold, slow breeze rushed forth. At that moment, the team's eyes reflected both dread and excitement. In that moment, Parker and his team unlocked the door to a hidden path that would change their lives forever. The first day of excavation, mystery, and fear. A gust of cold, damp air swept over the team when the heavy lid of the sealed shaft opened. Hearts thumping, Parker and his group took a short rest. Even the light from their headlights was barely a few feet away because the area ahead was so dark. Parker took a deep breath and signaled the group inside. Everyone was continued moving forward because they wanted to find the wealth, even if their steps were heavy. As they went along, the gang began to hear strange noises emanating from within. Sometimes there was the sudden sound of metal hitting metal. Sometimes it seemed like something was leaking, and sometimes it seemed like water was nearby. The air was filled with a strange smell that was a combination of rust, mud, and the scent of an old mystery. The stench was so strong that some team members covered their faces with cloth. Parker tried to appear tough, but it was clear that fear was visible on his face. They found that rusting tools and broken machinery covered the walls. Some of them were very old. It was difficult to tell when they had last been used. Unusual symbols appeared on the walls, as if someone had left a secret message there many years ago. There were symbols on these markers that none of the team members could decipher. Parker examined them carefully, then said quietly, "This location isn't simply a place to sleep, but there's more going on here that we might not fully comprehend just yet." As the team delved further, the silence grew more unnerving. They felt like someone was watching them at every stage. Their breathing and the squeaking of their boots were the only sounds that echoed. In the dark, Parker stepped forward and instructed the troops to move cautiously. The team's intrigue and fear peaked at that point. The first glimmer of gold. Suddenly, after several hours of digging, one of the crew members shouted for Parker. Parker and the rest of the crew immediately ran there. From the earth came a small gleam of gold. At first, everyone thought it was just a shiny stone. But when Parker picked it up, everyone's eyes widened in surprise. The light came from gold, not a stone. The collective gasped. For the first time, they had found real gold in this mysterious tunnel. Parker's eyes were filled with fear, but his face brightened with a smile. The crowd applauded and gave each other hugs. This was the first wonderful reward for their hard work. But Parker knew that it was just the beginning. He told the group that this was really a small detail. Riches were actually waiting for them farther below. Smaller pieces of gold were gradually identified by the group. With every piece, their hopes seemed to increase, while a question continued to reverberate in Parker's mind. If there was so much gold above, what would be below? As he said, his tone was solemn. If this amount of gold is just the beginning, then how did this line temporarily silence the squad? There would be a lot more below? As though their souls had been rocked, everyone turned to face one another. Since there can be a lot more gold below than although there was above, the risk was also growing. Parker and his group were aware that they needed to delve more in order to uncover the true secret. At that point, they resolved to find the real truth about this, regardless of the challenges they encountered. Enigmatic shaft, even if it meant losing their lives. Risky situations start as Parker and his group started to delve farther into the hole. The atmosphere became more and more ominous. First, everything appeared to be all right, but after a few hours, odd things started happening. Initially, a large machine that had been operating constantly abruptly halted, with no obvious cause. When the crew attempted to restart it, it failed at everything. The machine had no technical issues, according to the mechanic, and everything appeared to be all right. Everyone felt a weird apprehension at hearing this. Parker tried to dismiss it as a common occurrence, but he started to have doubts. Then, while excavating, suddenly, one of the team members slipped and fell down the stairs. His cry reverberated all along the shaft. The other participants hurried to his aid right away and tugged him out. He required emergency medical care because his leg was severely wounded. Everyone was astonished by how abruptly the event occurred. A few muttered that there was some unseen force at work here, that maybe this area was dangerous. Stranger things started happening as the excavation went on. Occasionally a machine would halt abruptly. Occasionally, a name might be screamed out in the shadows. Additionally, the electricity would occasionally cut off for no apparent reason. A number of the crew members grew terrified and suggested to Parker that the location might be cursed. Parker at first rejected these rumors, but as the events went on, he started to understand it was more than a treasure quest. Something they couldn't comprehend was occurring here. Parker encouraged his group to remain resilient, but in his heart, he was uncomfortable. Parker spotted something when watching the camera footage one evening. Odd. There seemed to be a shadow moving close to the machine. Despite the fact that nobody was Parker, who was there at the time, refrained from showing the squad this tape to avoid discouraging them. However, he was now persuaded that this location was unusual. This, he said to himself, perhaps we shouldn't have come here because the land is cursed. Eyes of the government. As the excavation by Parker's team continued, a word got out that they had found big gold coins. Government organizations sprang into action. One Parker saw drones circling over the shaft in the morning. At first, he believed he thought they might be media or other miners' drones, but upon closer inspection, he saw there were none. The drones have official markings on them. Parker didn't realize this until then. Routine monitoring. A few days later, some government representatives showed up. Parker was asked in a string of inquiries, what has been discovered thus far? Who was participating, and what was being dug up? Parker attempted to give broad information, but the officials probed further with each query. Parker felt that they were there to look at a bigger mystery rather than just the wealth. Over time, the group became aware that covert cameras were being set up in the area. Red lights gleamed in the darkness, even at night. It appeared as though they were always being watched. Parker's group grew apprehensive and questioned him about the circumstance. Parker, however, was confused. He couldn't comprehend the government's intense interest. The most peculiar aspect was that the officials never provided a definite response. When Parker questioned them about the reason for all of this, they would only state, it's all for security. However, their demeanor and expressions make it obvious suggested that they had something to conceal. With all of this in mind, Parker understood that this was more than a gold hunt. The government didn't want this information to be made public. The entire world. This idea simply made him feel more uneasy. The tension increased for the viewership. Was the treasure being guarded by the government? Or was there a secret that they wished to keep hidden at all costs? And that was concealed in this shaft. For Parker and his group, this became the most important question. Furthermore, the response to this query may be even more hazardous, more valuable than the actual treasure. An actual gold treasure. Following days of after much effort and innumerable challenges, Parker and his group eventually arrived at the shaft's deepest section. While they descended, the rocks and soils took on a new hue. Parker's hopes and heart were racing, expanding with every stride. Abruptly, a gleaming object emerged in the illumination of the torch of one of the squad members. The location caught everyone's interest, and as they approached, their astonished eyes widened. Instead of being a tiny piece of gold, it was a big, hefty, substantial gold chunk. Parker grabbed it right away and held it in his palms. The brilliant brilliance of the gold illuminated the darkness. Shaft. The group let out a joyful scream. Parker's face was beaming with happiness as well, although his eyes were filled with anxiety. He whispered to the group, asking them to keep digging. The team started discovering progressively bigger bits of gold as the excavation went on, each bigger and more substantial than the last one. Some of the fragments were so large that they had to be removed by machines. Once they had gathered everything, everyone was in disbelief when the gold's weight and approximate worth were determined. The gold was estimated to be worth $65 million, which is roughly 540 crore rupees. The group burst into laughter. While some were crying, others were embracing one another. It was the most memorable part of their existence. However, among this happiness, there was also a great deal of worry, such a massive they were going to face more challenges as a result of their finding. Parker examined the group and declared solemnly, "This isn't just gold. It will change our lives." When everyone recognized that this discovery now meant that it was a sign of both wealth and danger to them, they all fell silent. Ancient secret history is revealed. Along with the gold, Parker and his team found some rusty boxes, crumpled maps, and some old paperwork. He initially thought them belonged to old miners, but once he dug out the dirt and examined them closely, startling revelations began to come to light. Numerous government seals and marks found in the records make it clear that this location was once a part of a clandestine operation. Parker made an effort to read the documents carefully. Several of the documents contained code words and secret notes. They also claimed that the shaft contained rare metals and minerals that had never been revealed to the public in addition to gold. This was no ordinary mining site, since the maps revealed numerous concealed compartments and secret corridors. These records also mentioned the sudden disappearance of miners who worked here several years ago. This was once thought to be an accident. The paperwork, however, made it evident that this was not an ordinary occurrence. Actually, the government was determined to conceal what these miners had discovered. For this reason, the disappearance was never investigated in detail. Knowing all of this came as a total surprise to Parker and his friends. They now understood why the government was inquiring about this property. This was not only a treasure hunt, but it was also a game of hiding a long-maintained secret. The other crew members looked at Parker as he held the papers in his fingers, took a deep breath, and said, "This treasure is more than simply wealth. It's the biggest historical truth and possibly the most hazardous." Now, their joy had given way to concern. They understood that their lives would never be the same after coming to this realization. It would be difficult to escape from this network of secrets and treasure trove. Disputes inside the group. Following the discovery of a massive gold and ancient document treasure, tensions increased, began moving up in Parker's group. Everyone was thrilled at first. Disagreements began to emerge, though, as the crew realized how significant the revelation was. Some participants wanted everyone to know the truth. Thus, they wanted the revelation to be made public. They argued that it would be wrong to conceal. What a great treasure and mystery. If the public learned of this, the administration would be held accountable and the squad would be hailed as heroes. Some members, however, were fiercely against this. They believed that if word got out, the police would come for them, and no one would ever find out about the fortune. They feared the same thing would happen. They might end up like the ancient miners who disappeared without a trace. "We have an opportunity that could change our lives," one participant vehemently declared. "We shall all be destroyed if we manage it poorly." The argument heated up in front of Parker. The teams to factions started yelling at one another. On one side were people who wanted to share the truth and the treasure with the world, and on the other were others who wanted to preserve it for themselves. Secret. Parker stood in the center, his face displaying anxiety. He was unable to recognize who was correct. The world would take it into consideration if he made it public. He is a hero. However, it also meant that the government would seize everything from him and might even put his life in jeopardy. Parker was under tremendous pressure from this stress. He was aware that error may put his team's life in jeopardy. The group, he was surrounded by members who were often asking questions. "You must make a decision, Parker. Choice. Which way are we to all go?" Parker paid little attention, but a storm raged inside his head. Parker's significant choice. Parker sat by himself at night, contemplating. Gold mines, the team's aspiration, and the mysteries of ancient records drifted in front of his eyes. There was more to this than riches, he knew. It was a game of politics and power. All of this may result in disaster if he made the wrong decision. To their demise, Parker inhaled deeply and composed himself. Then he produced a choice that would permanently alter himself and his team's destiny. The following Parker assembled the team in the morning. There was an uncanny silence and everyone gazing at him. "I've made my decision," Parker stated decisively. "This treasure and this reality will remain here for the time being, not being disclosed to anybody." Parker continued, "If this gets out, the authorities will attack us, and we may disappear like the previous miners." His words prompted the crew to fall silent. with some sighing with relief and others furiously angry at those who wished to make it public. This treasure is not just gold. It is worth more than our lives. His comments scared many team members, who nodded in agreement. Over time, the gang realized that the government was already using drones and covert cameras to monitor their activities. Situated nearby confirmed that the government was monitoring everything they did, and Parker also hinted that he had secret meetings with some government representatives. Although he didn't say much to the team, it was clear from his words that an agreement had been reached. The tension rose as a result of this decision. What deal had Parker made with the government, and was this his sole intention to protect his crew? Or was there another, deeper issue at work here? Went silent, but the fear and anxiety in their hearts grew stronger. Parker looked at them and said, "What we saw and what we found is ours alone," giving them all one last chance. Nevertheless, everyone bent their heads in quiet upon hearing his warning that if anyone leaks this information, we'll all be doomed. The wealth was now theirs, but there was a catch that would change their lives forever. In conclusion, this section of the video features a fast-paced, dramatic, and intense visual montage. As background music plays, the atmosphere is mysterious and thrilling. Short video depict Parker's team's entire journey through the treacherous and slick terrain of the Yukon, the old, weathered map, Parker's look of hope and terror, and the group's dark, nighttime quest. Next, the situation in which chilly, damp air is expelled when the heavy shaft door first opens. As the group continues, strange noises and pictures of mishaps and sudden equipment shutdowns are displayed on the walls, accompanied by symbols, elicit powerful feelings from the audience. The entire crew then erupts with joy as Parker and his group first sight the shimmering gold. Meanwhile, a brief glimpse of secret cameras and government drones heightens the stress. Finally, there was a mix of anger and fear in the Parker's eyes. This montage, which presents a contrasting government, secrets, and gold to help the audience understand that there is a dangerous game being played here, not just a tale of treasure, depicts the conflicts among the squad and his rapid succession of crucial decisions to hide the gold. Underneath the surface, the primary question of the audience. Now is the moment to interact with the audience directly. Parker's decision had a significant impact on the team's lives, but was it the right one? Everyone is now impacted by this question, not just the team. The camera slowly pans in on Parker's solemn face as you watch this story. A tense, gentle tune plays in the background while a voiceover begins. Parker and his companions made the choice to conceal this treasure from the general population. Did the team really promise that no one would speak the truth? Do you think Parker should have revealed this secret and this treasure? Or did he act appropriately to protect himself and his group? With federal agencies monitoring the scene from the beginning, using drones and covert cameras, and continuously questioning Parker, viewers are also forced to consider the role of the government. They are clearly hiding something important, but what is it? Something? Is the government telling the truth, or is there a secret at all? More significant than this riches, they will do everything in their power to hide. The movie captures the faces of Parker and his employees. Among them, there is a deep sense of perplexity, rage, and terror. Tension in the minds of the viewers. A voiceover at the conclusion begs, please share your thoughts in the comments section. Did Parker make the correct decision, or did his disquiet reveal a perilous truth? At the same time, a lengthy sentence appears on the screen. What do you think? Should the truth be revealed or kept hidden? The video's tension and suspense reaches zenith with this open-ended inquiry, giving viewers the impression that they have observed not just a tale of a treasure, but also a piece of history and the power struggle, which forces them to voice their thoughts and stay enthusiastic. Parker's weary and solemn expression is shown on camera in the upcoming episode. The center of the black shaft, his eyes show signs of exhaustion as if he hasn't slept for days. As the camera gradually moves downward, a huge vast swath of glistening gold, which amply displays the team's labor and peril. A languid, tense melody plays in the background, contributing to the enigmatic ambience. Parker inhales deeply, gazes at using a gentle yet stern tone. He continues, "The treasure has been located, but its actual worth is still unknown." The audience finds resonance in this sentence, demonstrating that much is yet to be found. The narrator then urges viewers to click the bell icon and subscribe to our channel in order to be the first to know about our next great discovery. If you enjoyed this exciting journey, please do so.